Hey everyone, welcome back to Rhythm Railroad. This is update number 18 of my HO scale layout. I'm going to try to take a different approach with this update. Rather than just walking around and explaining everything, I figured it'd be more interesting if I had a train running while I did that, especially since I can safely run the train around the spline without having any casualties. I've tested it enough times that I feel confident. Knock on wood. Hopefully there won't be any accidents today. But I figured I'd do it almost like a tour bus in the city, where as you go through the streets, they explain and introduce you to what you're looking at. So with that said, you're looking at my staging yard right now, which has been, progressively getting better as we have gone through the updates. But it's actually, right now, it's 99.99% done. And what I mean by that is that everything is hooked up. Every single track can get around fully. There's 4 tracks in the staging yard, but they're very long, and it's basically like a big loop that goes around the peninsula and back and folds on itself on the way out. So what you're looking at here is the 4 tracks closer to me. Right here, 1, 2, 3, 4 are the inbound or the arriving trains, and the tracks furthest away, 1, 2, 3, and 4 back there, are the outbound trains, or the departure trains. At least that's the way I'm going to try to organize it, so I don't have any situations, any accidents. One of the things I did, which I wasn't planning on doing, but as I finished my track work, I realized that I have more track than I thought I would need, but it's always better to have more than less. So I can actually get a full 25 to 30 car train up to that point right there, and then I could stack on the same exact track another 25 to 30 car train up to where the gaps are right here. Obviously, track 4, which is the one out here, has the shortest run, so I might not be able to do as many, but track 1, which is the one that the CN car right there is on, obviously has, you can get probably, four more cars into the train on either side, so that's 8 cars total. And because of that, what I decided to do was actually add another block into each track. So even though it's a little annoying because you have to run 4 wires for this side of the staging and 4 wires for that side of the staging, it's a lot of wires and a lot of feeders that you have to plug in, plus the common bus on top of that. So there's a lot of wires under here, but it's definitely worth it when it comes to my block detection, because now I can see when there's a train on the inbound side, which is the one I just showed you, and if there's anything on the other side, on the other tracks that are being occupied. So as you can see here, I have track 1, 2, and 3 occupied, which is why you see all this traffic here. But in the back, where there's nothing back there, it's showing all black, which means that it's not occupied. Now track 4 is empty, because track 4 right here has nothing on it. It's all the way around, so it's totally empty. The train that we're going to be running for this scenario, which is going to be our tour guide, is this Canadian Pacific along with the UP locomotive, and it's situated right now on track 1 inbound. It just came in actually. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to pull it around, go all the way around the peninsula, come back in. You'll see track 1 light up here once I get into that track, and then we'll be on our way out to the layout through this lead here. One thing that I have been messing around with, and I actually posted a video a few days ago about this, is adding resistors to the rolling stock in order to be able to detect not only the locomotives but also the cars behind the locomotive. And so, you know, in case I have a very long train, you can see if it's taking up 2 or 3 or more blocks, and then the dispatcher won't throw any switches under the last car or in the middle of the train somewhere thinking that it's not there. So I've decided to put all of those cars that I've worked on this train so you can see how that works. So, you know, basically from that covered hopper all the way to the Canadian National car, those are all have resistors. So you have detection all the way up until the end of this train. And by the way, I just wanted to say that I haven't been doing updates the way I'm doing it right now, because I've been doing these little videos on the small projects I've been working on just to get something up on my channel. And I just haven't had the time to really sit down and do a full update because I've been kind of chipping away here and there. And so I'm glad I'm getting this update in now. So what we're going to do is get this train going, and while I do that, we'll just get this going here. I'm controlling with Y throttle, by the way. So we'll get him in its way. It's going to take a little while to get around the full staging yard, but I do want to show you a few new things that I acquired. Starting with these 2 locomotives here. This is a Scale Trains River Counter Tier 4, the first run. I think it's the first run because I think they're only up to the second run now. So yeah, I got it. It's got obviously an ESU decoder in it. I love everything about it. The details are incredible. All the lighting effects, you know, extra lighting that I never even knew were on locomotives. So that's all really, really cool. And the sound files are incredible on the ESU decoder. And also the way the locomotive runs is great. The only thing I'm not crazy about is this actual sound that's coming out of the speaker. So I don't know if it's just a crappy speaker or the speaker is malfunctioning, but it sounds really thin, really tinny. And the horn, it sounds just like a distorted, cracked kind of thing. So I don't know. I'll look into that. I did order another Gevo in NS that's coming soon. So if that one sounds better, then I'll have to call Scale Trains and see why that's happening. I'm going to take it back to the screen here for 1 second, just so you see. You see how track 1 on the other side, on the outbound side, is now showing occupied? That's because the train crossed the gap. Now the end of the train is about to leave this side of the layout, so they should be turning black very soon. As soon as that last car jumps that gap, it should be very soon. There it is. Now you see that it's not occupied anymore because the train is on the other side of the peninsula and getting ready to leave. Now obviously the turnout here is not lined up, so let me go ahead and get that set up. And all these turnouts are wired now and able to be controlled through JMRI or the throttle. Now you do see a little red here. That's because I assigned this to the wrong place, so I gotta just fix that. But eventually that won't be shown that way. So now as you can see, the train's coming this way on the other side of the staging yard, and it's on its way out through the outbound track 1 on its way out. So great locomotive. I gotta figure out what's going on with that speaker. This locomotive, it's a Kato or Kato Amtrak, I think it's called a P42, and really cool. I love, again, everything about it. It's not as detailed as you know, the Scale Trains. You know, it's missing the wipers. It doesn't have all the little details, but It's really, really nice for what it is, and it pulls like crazy. And the reason why it's such a good puller is because the actual motors are in each truck. So there's two motors in this locomotive, one there and one there. So the whole body is basically a big weight, and because of that, it's able to grab the track a lot better than most locomotives. I'm just going to turn this, make sure this turner is lined up here, because I haven't been able to hook that torque machine up yet. So yeah, really nice. It's just that, again, the speaker with this one, this has very different speakers than this does. I'm just not as happy with as the Athearn. I mean, when I blow the horn on the Max up here, those things sound like tremendous compared to this. So maybe it's just I have to mess with the files and I have to mess with the EQ or something. Just add more bass tones or something. But besides that, everything is great. And I love ESU. I've always loved it with N-Scale. So I know it's not the actual decoder. I'm trying to see what's going on with that and why the Athearn soundtracks. I have a Tsunami 2 on those locomotives. They sound so much better. But yeah, anyways. And then the last thing I got was this clean machine, which is from CMX, which is amazing. I had it for my N-Scale layout, and it was great. And I'm not using it a lot because I don't want to take a risk of rusting up the track or something, just overdoing it. But I'm just using this 91% alcohol, and it seems to be working great. I cleaned the track once since I got all that off the track, and then I haven't touched it. So all my trains are running without any problems. So I'm happy about that. So going back to the panel here, as you can see, our train has left the staging yard, and it's now on the big lead here to the layout. And this is actually the reversing loop of the staging track. So obviously when this comes around, when it gets here, there's going to be a short. So I made this entire section, including that turnout, the reversing section. And it's got plenty of track to be able to carry a long train without jumping to the other setup for the electricity. So it won't have a short. I'm just turning this AC off so you can actually hear what I'm saying. Speaking of the AC, this is going to be eventually, not here. I'm going to take this hose and I'm going to actually vent it from the bottom of the closet there. There's a way to get it up and out to the back of the house that way. So I'm just going to make a little connection there somehow so I can just have the AC here somewhere, because obviously that can't happen when I start doing scenery. Alright, so what's new with the actual layout? We're approaching the newest part of my change of plans here. Originally this track was coming on this side of the benchwork, and then it snaked around and then went out on the far side of the benchwork. Now what I did is I actually leveled it out here instead of continuing to climb. I leveled it out to get under these two tracks, which are going to be my CSX line. The dedicated double line's going to go across and then go around that way. So basically the CP line, CPNS, is going to go under. And this is actually supposed to represent the scene. There's a place in Schenectady that has this happening there. It's perpendicular, but I couldn't get that perpendicular line, so I did it this way. And the bridge doesn't actually look like that. I'm just going to stop the train here for a sec. The bridge doesn't actually look like this, prototypically, but I just couldn't pull it off, so I did it my way. And what this is a Central Valley bridge that I kind of kit bashed. It's supposed to be like, just a straight double track bridge, but I offset the side panels so that I can get the angles here, and it came out quite nice. The only thing I have to do now is just, make the abutments and the supporting columns here, the supporting platforms for the bridge to sit on. So right now I just have this clamped down here, just to kind of, you know, have the bridge sit there, and I can check for clearance and stuff like that. So the rest of the addition, which I spoke about before, you know, the changes to the plan are basically that CSX now is running on that side of the benchwork, and CP crosses over to the, I guess what I call the inside of the benchwork, and it levels out right there right before the gate. So, you know, the plan is CSX is going to be its own railroad, and it's going to be just a territory on the main level. So everything is a giant loop on the main level that goes all the way around through the wall and then back through the gate and up to here again. So this is the only elevation really that it has over the bridge, and then it starts to come down again. Sorry, I don't mean to make you guys dizzy. And then it levels out before it gets to that, you know, that spline right there. The original plan was to put the main yard here, a large yard here, and I was going to have my kind of like my facilities on this side. But now what I'm going to do is make this very industrial, kind of very industrial section for CSX, and I'm going to make my yard on that side of that benchwork, which was supposed to be my industries over there. So I basically just flip-flopped it, and it actually works out better over there because I have more room for, you know, for the yard tracks. I thought it was going to be the opposite, where this was going to give me more track work, but I forgot that there's another piece of benchwork that comes in this way on that side, so it actually worked out better. So basically the gate, which is right here, is the only point where all tracks are the same height, meaning there's no climbing from CP like over here. Over here, you know, it's dropping, so, and this is climbing, so I couldn't do any kind of junction here. So because this is where you get all three tracks flat, I was kind of forced to make my junction here. So that's why I did these two crossovers on the gate, which is not ideal, but it actually worked out great. I was able to get all my tortoise machines under there, and everything works. And even my cables to control the tortoise, which I use Cat 6 cable. So what I did to make it really easy is I connected it to an Ethernet plug, and then I just took an Ethernet cable to jump it over to the other side. I put another plug there, and then I just connected all the wires from the tortoise machines up to there. So that's great. So much easier than having to, you know, individually run every wire over. And when I open the gate, there's enough slack, that's why I left it like that, for the gate to open and the wire doesn't get tangled up or anything. I've obviously tested that, and it's great. So everything's working here. I just got to finish the track work for the CSX line, and that's what's new in this area here. So we're going to move on here. Let's get the locomotive going. I had a little bit of a problem here with a short, and you know, it was a few things that were making that happen. Well, it was a short, and it was also power loss. So what ended up happening was that I only had feeders on the reverse loop, which is from here all the way down to staging. I only had feeders right here, and I didn't have feeders anywhere else. So even though my locomotives were working, when it got here, I guess there was such a power drop or voltage drop that when it jumped to the next thing, it saw it as a short. So as soon as I put all the feeders in, I put like another, you know, whatever, 10 or 15 feeders down, everything evened out, I guess, and I had no problems. And the auto reverser was able to see it a lot faster than my PM42 over there, which was causing the issue. So now it's fine. The other issue was that I developed a system to, you know, jump the power of the tracks and the block detection from the main benchwork on this side over to the gate. And once again, let me just stop the train here. What I did to do that was I took just regular old elbows like this, you know, brackets, and I mounted them over here like that. But before I did that, I took some some of this brass material, and I bent it over the elbow. So what that created was like a little bit, I'm trying to just focus here, a little bit of a flap that just kind of hangs out. So the screw is holding the, you can see it up there, the brass. And then when it comes down, it's soft enough where it bends, but it's hard enough that it creates a spring. And then on this side, I took these brass, straight brackets that I just got at Ace. It says Ace on it. And I wired up I soldered the wires onto the brackets. And then from there, I jumped it over to the main, block detection wires and everything else. And I also have a frog juicer, which I'm going to take out eventually. I don't need it there because I have the tortoises. It's just that I didn't have the chance to hook it up, to wire it up correctly. So that's why I'm just using that just to get the train across. And also I have a bunch of them from my N-scale layout, so I just figured I'd use them. So what happens is when you close the gate, all these brackets right here make contact with the elbows and the flaps there, and that's how you jump the power across. So that's actually working really nice. I only had one that was misfiring, and all I had to do was just go like that, and it just bent the brass up a little bit, and now it's got enough spring to it where it allows it to work correctly. So that's new there. I don't think I showed that in 17, in update 17. Okay, I'm gonna move on. Nothing too new here. The only thing that's new is that I had to enlarge this because I only had one section of cork running through here, which was the center one here originally, because this was supposed to be just CP, just single track all the way through. But when I decided to go with CSX, all I had to do was basically take another set of corks and just put one side on this far side and one side on this inner side, and that gave me enough right here, these four, to give me the double tracks that I need, the double main that I need. And what I do with this is that I cheat the track all the way out to the edge here, and then also all the way out to the edge here. Now I did add extra cork here just to make the turn a little smoother, so I don't have to cut it so tight. But I don't need. It's not a big deal. I don't need it. And then I just followed that shape the way I had the original shape, all the way around and through there. And I did check for clearance. That's the tightest part of the turn here. I just didn't want to rip all this up, so I tried it. I checked it with the two tracks. I put some auto racks on there, really long cars, and it worked out very nice without any collisions. So that's basically the only thing that I did that was kind of new in this section here. Everything else is just kind of standing still here. As the train makes it up the hill here, the only thing I'm working on right now, at least mentally, is trying to figure out in Belden, New York, right before Belden Tunnel, there's a road that crosses the approach here to the tunnel, which is what we're looking at here. So I'm trying to figure out what to do so that I can kind of sneak a road in through here, make the crossing here, and then start heading down slowly. I don't want to make it too extreme because then it looks toyish. And then it's going to have another crossing here for CSX that's going to eventually disappear behind the mountain somewhere, or just go straight out. So I got to figure out how exactly I'm going to place that. But it'll be cool because I'll have, gates here and I'll have gates over there. So it will just make it a little more fun. And a little more horn blowing on both railroads. Alright, so that's what I'm working on here. On this part, this is supposed to represent, Belden Mountain, I guess, because Belden Hill is actually not very steep at all. But before the tunnel, there is some kind of, mountain that it's got to get through, or hill. But in my world, it's going to be a giant mountain. And so what I did is I used pink foam to kind of shape, make kind of like a skeleton of what the mountain might look like. I still have to shape it better. I could just cut it with a hot wire or whatever. but that's just to get the idea. And what I tried to do was get the foam kind of away from the track a little, so the hill wouldn't be right on top of the train, so I can put bushes and whatever there. And then I took more of the foam and I just kind of glued it and screwed it, so this is real stiff now. And from there, I connected these that are going to make it over the helix. But again, this is a straight shot up here, so I might have to do like some rock face or something there that doesn't exist there in that area, but whatever. And that's how I kind of shape this all the way through. And then the fascia here is going to get cut. Actually, I just drew kind of like what I want to cut it as. And I want to have like a big valley here, even though there'll be trees here to catch the train. I'm just going to stop 1 second. Yeah, I'm going to make the hill come down here, but I'm going to put trees here so that in case the train falls into that, it'll catch it. But I did want to make it so that the hill or the mountain kind of comes down to the track and then it kind of continues. So everything is either at track height or close to track height or lower. So this is what I'm going for right now. I might change it a little bit. I don't know. I just kind of drew that just to get an idea. And then from there, obviously, it's gonna start coming down. And this is gonna be a hillside with the road that I told you about. So we'll see how that goes. So that's that. So we're gonna go to the other side before the train makes it around the tunnel. On this side, I've been working on just trying to figure out where to put my portal. It's not going to be that one necessarily, but I got that one just to kind of, try some different things. And originally, this is the setup that I wanted, where the stairs kind of dictate where the tunnel starts. So, I would have some like scenery here or whatever. But I think what I'm going to do is actually make the portal go under the stairs. So like kind of like where the locomotive is. Put it there and then make the, what do you call those? The walls on the sides of the bridge portal come out to this, distance. So it would be like kind of like, all the way to here. And then, I'll figure out how to kind of shape it a little bit. But the hill would actually, come up this way. So in other words, I want this to look deep instead of just like right here. Now, the reason I don't want it here is because the turnout is right here, and it's not really realistic that a train would come out right to a turnout without a signal or anything here. So, but I didn't want to sacrifice the long siding that I made for a tunnel portal. You know what I mean? So I'd rather have. So I'd rather just move that back and be able to get a nice signal here, along with the two signals facing this way, there. Okay, so anyways, we just had the lights kind of blinked a little bit, so I don't know if something's going on with the power or what, but we're going to continue. Hopefully the lights won't go out. And as you can see, once I enter the siding here, or actually I'm in the main line right now, but once I enter the siding, you're going to see that this lights up this block here. You'll see it come in 1 second. It's working its way through. There it is. So I still have to work with the wiring over there. I didn't connect the transition track to anything, so that's why you don't see it. And again, the area before the siding, which is that hill area where the tunnel is right here, is still lit up because I had the resistors on those cars right there. So that's why it's still picking it up. Somebody mentioned the turnout staying lit while the train was on this block here. I actually asked somebody about that, and they explained that that's the way it is, because what happens is when you're on this track, you're actually occupying both sides of the turnout because you can't go anywhere. You're blocking the one single track. That's why when you go into the siding, it frees up. It actually frees up the turnout, because now you have an option to go one way or the other. So as you can see, I'm occupying the siding, and I'm occupying the main line within the siding, which is this train that's sitting here. But if now when I go to the next section, which is here, theoretically, you know, I'm supposed to have the turnout here light up along with it, because it's telling you it's blocked. You can't go anywhere. So that's what I don't know that that's correct 100%, but I think it makes sense in my head. So we're just gonna go with that. Instead of having to wire throw another 4 sets of wires to wire up each turnout. I'd rather not do that. Okay, so we're coming around here. Now we're actually in the second level. So what happens is we're basically down on the other side. It was just one level that was coming up on a hill. But now that we exit the tunnel, now this becomes 2 separate levels completely. So here's where it breaks. This will have fascia with lights under it, so you can see, you know, the scene here. And then obviously this will have its own fascia, and the third level will have its own fascia. So now's where you actually see the 3 levels, and the hidden staging you won't see anyway. But what I was explaining before is that here is where the yard's going to start. So it's, you know, basically it's going to run in the back, and it's going to open up here. This is where the yard ladder is going to run. And I'm going to have, I don't know, 4, 5, 6 tracks here that are eventually going to close before they go to the wall. They go through the wall, rather. But I have this area here, which is where I'm going to basically have all my engine shops and car shops and, you know, fueling stations. All that stuff's going to happen here in this area. And I might have one industry or something there too. But, you know, that's what I'm going for. So now going back to the block detection, right now this area right here is where the staircase is. So you can see that that's where the train is right now. But now it's about to jump into the next block, which would be here. And I just cleared the CN car from this block, so that's why this turned black again. But now when this lights up for the next block, hopefully, I don't know if I wired that yet, but you should see that this is still lit up because of the car. Oh, here it comes. Okay. There it is. Okay, so that's the locomotives entering, and this is still the CN car and the rest of the rolling stock still occupying this block here. So that's why it's showing 2 blocks as being occupied, as you can see there. So nothing new really on the second level. Again, I'm using these juicers because I don't have my torch machines hooked up yet. Once I do that, I'll remove them. But this is, I'm waiting for track. Microengineering has been really backed up with the Code 83 track. So once I get my track, I'll be able to finish this siding here and, you know, obviously the third level, which we're going to get to later. But here in the second level, this is, once again, if you haven't seen my other videos, going to be like the industry area. So all of this, basically this entire room is going to be all industries that are going to be on the outside, like in this section here, they're going to be on the outside of the main. And in that back corner, they're going to be on the inside of the main. That back corner inside. And then there's one here, just a little one, that's going to be also on the inside. But there's going to be scenery on the outside all the way through. So the benchwork is actually going to be twice as deep. It's going to be 18 inches. And down there it's 24. So, but, you know, nothing to really talk about right now because I haven't been able to get to any of that. So as we come around here, we are approaching the gate once again, but now we're on the second level. A few things that I did over here, and I posted videos about this, but basically I had a little trouble with the alignment here because I was an idiot, and when I built the main part of the gate, I never put the piece of wood under it that pushes everything up. So then after I was done with, you know, with building this, then I put that block in and it pushed everything up here. So that's why you see the plywood kind of lifted here a little bit, because I gained like a little bit of height here. And because of that, you know, the track wasn't lining up quite right. So I was messing with it and finally what I decided to do was create a cleat, something to limit the movement, but also something to push the bench work so that it would push up against that and it would line up the tracks since they were kicking out toward me and they were out of alignment. So I came up with this little device here. I soldered this to a double elbow joint here. And I put screws in there and a little plate, and that's enough to turn the screws and push the bench work, into the right place and line everything up. Let me slow down a little bit here. The other thing that I did, and I actually did this probably 2 days ago, or maybe yesterday, I don't remember. But what I did was that every time I was running trains here, I would have to take a wire that was just dangling here and then take the feeders from right here that were dangling here and connect it. But I couldn't forget because once I, shut everything down, if I opened the gate, I would rip them out. I mean, it was always a situation here. So I finally said, let me just clean this up and come up with a system. But I didn't want to have like a plug of any kind. I wanted to just close the gate and have power go through. So what I did is I did something similar to what I showed you down there, but this is a lot simpler. I just took that same brass material, made just straight plates on this side, screwed them in, and then just soldered a wire over to the feeders, which then are connected to the 12 gauge wire. Obviously this is on both sides, so let's say this would be track A, track B, and then in order to make contact here, what I did was I soldered a plate here to this side, but I bent it so that when I close the gate, it actually pushes up against the brass on this side. And I did that obviously on both ends. And I did a track A and track B, same way. And then what I did so that I can just know that it's actually powered is that I just hooked up one of these UP5s from Digitrax, which come with a little status light. And I actually didn't know about this status light originally. I was running these for a while, like for years, and I had no idea there was a status light there. And the way you hook it up is there's 2 screws in the back. And you just basically run your track power to the 2 screws. So what I did is I took the power from here, which is still, the same voltage, and just ran to the back, and that lights up the status light. So, once I open the gate, the light goes off, so I know there's no more track power. But if I close the gate and I see that the light's off, that means I'm not making contact here. So it's just a way for me to tell. Eventually, I'm just going to take a little LED that's rated at the right, voltage, because I tried doing it with a 9 volt or whatever it was, and I burned it immediately. And even with resistors, I burned it. So luckily, I have like 100 of those. But anyways, I'll put the little light here or something, or on the fascia somewhere, I'll figure out somewhere so I can see it when I close the gate. And I'll probably do the same thing down here, just so that I know all the power's running through. And I'll probably even do it with multiple lights so that I can see that everything that I have down there is actually functioning. The only wacky thing, and I can't figure it out, I don't know why this is happening, is that when I open the gate, like if the power is on and I open the gate, 9 times out of 10 I'll get a short. It'll, the PM42 will shut down, and then it'll turn back on again, obviously. But when I close the gate, it doesn't short. And then I'll open the gate and it won't short, and then I'll close the gate and it'll short. So I don't know what's happening, if it's this that's causing the problem. I haven't tested it without hooking this up. I don't know what's going on, but normally things like that happen when there's like, a jump in power, or when there's like a locomotive on top. The only thing, and actually I just thought about it right now, the only thing that I can imagine is that I only have a feeder here. Let me think about this. I only have a feeder here, and I don't have anything else connected to the track except all the way over there. So it might be another one of those feeder issues where I gotta just get power evenly distributed through the track. And I think over here as well. I think I have some feeders hooked up, but not all of them, if I'm not mistaken. No, these are hooked up. So it's definitely not coming from this side. So, I don't know why that's happening, but obviously the problem has to be from here to here, because this is just double gaps and there's no connection to any of this on this side. And I'm talking just opening and closing without any locomotives in the way or any locomotives here or even over there. It just does that. So that's kind of weird. I gotta play around with that and figure it out. But going on, so we're gonna move on here. This is where the yard starts for the second level. It'll be a smaller yard, and I'm changing the plan on how to support this. I'm probably gonna just bite the bullet and get brackets and really support it, because now I'm planning on having a lot more weight on this area here. So even though it holds a good amount, I want it to be very stable. Especially if people are going to be reaching in there to, like, uncouple things and whatever. They just the tendency to put your arm here and just lean on it. I don't want this breaking and falling down, and that'll be a disaster. So that's that. So yeah, but nothing really new as far as the plan. I'm still trying to figure out what to do, because obviously the railroad, this railroad is supposed to be mostly CP and NS territory, but I wanted to get that CSX in real bad. That's why I decided to do this, and I did want to get some Amtrak in, which is not realistic to be running it on this line, but there is a point in Schenectady where it does kind of cross over. So the Amtrak will probably be running more down here, but I do want to run it up on top. So I don't really care. I'm going to do it anyway. But what I'm trying to get to is that the CSX line is going to have the big yard over there where I showed you, and the CP line theoretically is going to have this yard. So it almost becomes inferior to CSX, because there's less, there's barely a yard here. So I don't know. I got to kind of see if maybe just to do yard work, I'll go into the CSX territory and just do my switching there, and this will just be more like a transfer yard. But I'm thinking about that and trying to figure it out. I obviously can't be super prototypical with this, because I've already broken way too many rules to go in that direction. So I'm not even going to lose sleep over that. So what else? Okay, so yeah, second level, nothing really has changed on this end here. This is all running very nicely, and it's all going up into the third level perfectly well, even with all these auto racks. And I've ran it up and down, and I haven't had any derailments or anything weird. The only thing that happened that was, I guess, unavoidable is that some of the Intermountain cars that have those extra, these things here, those extra door flaps, tend to get hooked up on each other. If you have like two of these in a row, they tend to, as they go downhill, they tend to bunch up, and then they start kind of like clinging onto each other, and sometimes on a tight turn, they'll make the other car jump or throw the other car off. So what I've been doing is I've been kind of like, jumping them, like doing that every other car that you see here. It's an Intermountain, then it's an Atlas, and an Intermountain, and so that you don't have this issue here, because that's where it happens when they bunch up. So I'm going to stop the train here, because obviously we have traffic here, and that's kind of the end of the line anyway. And then I'm going to just basically show you what I'm doing with the third level without our tour train. We'll just leave that there. So the Helix is working and completed. The only thing I've decided to do with the Helix is I'm going to make the Helix the reverse section, because originally I was just going to make it a detection section and then make some kind of like stretch of track here, like here or so, the reverse loop, or the reversing section, just like I did at the bottom here. But the Helix is big enough to get about a 50 car train in there without it shorting. And the reason I'm saying that, because it doesn't look that way, but is because the gaps are actually right there. Right there. So you have a little more track than, a little more track before the Helix actually starts. And then you have the entire Helix. This is a pretty decently long train. It's got super long locomotives on it. And then it continues. So the reverse track is actually going to end after this turnout. So probably around here somewhere. So I still even have, I can get another 6 or 7 cars in there without a problem. And so, that's the only thing I decided to do. So what I'm going to do is use another one of these BXPA 1s up here, which is what I used at the bottom reversing section. And it's working quite well, actually better than I've ever had it work before. I just think they work better with the higher voltage. Like with N-Scale, it was a little bit finicky. But, maybe at whatever 15 volts, it's running better internally. But anyways, this allows me to reverse the entire helix in one shot, but it also allows me to detect the helix. And what I like about it also, and this is kind of like why I did it here, is that Digitrax recommends that you use the shortest run of wire possible to get to this, so that you don't have any issues with detection. And it can't get any shorter than going from here to here. So, I'm going to be feeding the track power right from there, which is great, and then from the helix, which is all right here. So it's all within close proximity, rather than having to put this thing, somewhere out there, and then risking being too far away. So I'm excited about that. I think it's going to work out great. All right, so finally, let's get up to the third level here. So the third level has been a work in progress for a while, but a few things were getting in the way, which were, easy obstacles. The first thing was getting these lift-out bridges built so that I can have access to the windows, and there's 2 of them. So they came out great. I love the way I designed them. I love the way they came out, and they're quasi-permanent because I have these bolts that can be taken out very easily. I just got to take a drill with a socket adapter and just go, and they come right out. And then once you get those 2 bolts and these 2 bolts out, which by the way, I made them face this way so that I can, the face is going to be here, so I can just reach in there and just pull them out, rather than having to mess around in here with this being covered. It's impossible. So yeah, I just got one of those spiky, nut things, and I just, put them in there. And they're not going anywhere. And then I just bolted the stuff in. And I did all this before I actually put the cork down, so that, I wouldn't have any issues with alignment. So now that everything's down, I'm going to put the track in, glue it, make sure it dries, and then cut my gaps, cut everything that I need to cut at that point. This way, if I ever have to lift this out, it's already all in place, and it'll fall right back in with the alignment being perfect with these bolts here. So, continuing on, after we get past the bridge here, I did all this cork work, and then I finally got to start the spline here. So I got the spline and the cork done all the way through here. I did a lot of this. This is basically all the work I've been doing. And then I stopped the cork here because I got tired and I just couldn't finish there. But I did finish the spline work today. So I got all the way, the spline all the way through here. And this is a nice long run. I love it. And I got up to the second bridge, which I built the same way. And that came out great as well. So now, all the cleats for the bench work are ready. And I have my Homasote. I had my Homasote, but I have to rip some more to get from that point to that point. The reason I'm not doing it right now, even though I could have, is because I have that I-beam that holds up the house. I kind of need that in the way. And the trains are going to come through here, but if I start building my spline here, I'm going to have very little access to get in here for lighting. So I ordered my lighting so that I can install that before I start adding stuff here. Otherwise, I'm never going to be able to get my hands in there. So there's 2 things I need to happen. I got to get the lights in there, and I need to get my masonite board back there curved and shaped and permanent, so that then I could just do my scenery and my spline work and whatever else. But the spline work's probably gonna come out to like here, and that's pretty close to where this lip is here. So that's why I stopped right here, and I don't want to get ahead of myself, and then I have to pull everything out. So the only thing I'm still kind of trying to figure out with planning is that I do want some kind of siding or mini yard up here in the third level, but I don't want it to be anything too big because, well, there's a few reasons. Number one, I don't want this to stick out too far. I want it to be kind of out of the way. The other reason is that if I stick it out too far, then it's hard to see back there because this is at 7 feet already, or no, it's just over 6 feet. So it's a little bit over eye level. So you'll see the trains, but if you pull out too far, then back here you won't see anything. You'll have to get up on a stool, and I don't want to deal with that. So I'm probably just gonna start a siding here, and just keep a double track the same way I have this here, all the way through and to there. The only thing I was gonna do just to get a little bit more, just to make it a little more interesting for myself, is make this siding come out and kind of like curve around or whatever, like make it have more shape to it. I don't know if that's even worth it. Or I was going to make a station for Amtrak up here that sat between this main line and the other main line. So I was going to bring it out to here with the station in the middle, which I've seen. So I think that might be my best approach here, so that I can keep a train on this track and then run a train behind it and vice versa. And if I do decide to do a passenger train, I could make the stop here or on the other side. I'll make it a double-sided platform. But I do want to continue the double track past the bridge and even over here before I close it and bring it to single track here. So this way, I can stage up here too. That way I can stack trains, or I can just have one train waiting while the other one gets up here, then the other one goes and switches, that kind of thing. So once we get past this, the bridge is ready to go. The only thing I have to do with this bridge is just basically get my bolts in here to do the same kind of concept that I did over there. So this is quasi-permanent, but I can still swing it open if I need to. But so far, my wife can get through there without even hitting her head, so she just clears. I have to duck a little bit, but it's very little. So I'm going to probably keep this like this most of the time. And then, this spline is already done. I basically have it all the way through, including that lift out, which was another thing that was in the way, but that's done. And it connects right back up. And I even have the track work done already over here. So this track work that I have from here running into this is where I would return into the helix, which would then get me back down to the rest of the layout. So yeah, it's almost there. It's like I feel like I can see the light at the end of the tunnel, but at the same time I have to do a lot of little things that are getting in the way. The other thing I wanted to say before I complete this video is that the trains in the third level are always going to run in a counterclockwise direction. So in other words, once they exit the helix, they're always going to go left. They're not going to go right, because if you notice, the slope coming out on the left side is a lot smaller. It's a lot easier for a train to climb, and you can barely even see it. It's climbing a little bit, and then it flattens out of the window, and then from here all the way to that corner, actually to the window, it's like a 0.5% incline. So it's a super light incline, but it is climbing, and it's a nice, way to get the train up to the right height and still have enough room here between the two levels. But then what happens is, once I get past the gate, because I wanted to keep the levels nice and separated here, once I get past the gate, then it's like a dash down to the helix level. So that's why over here I wanted to go downhill. I want the trains to be going down this hill rather than up, because this is a lot more aggressive. It's not, I think it's a 3%, if that. It's supposed to be a 2.7, according to my calculations, but it looks a lot steeper. And I don't know if that's an optical illusion because of the way the cleat is, but it's definitely, you know, taking a dive here. So I'd rather have trains going down this hill rather than up, because I can control that, and I don't have to worry about helpers and things like that before it gets to this. So in other words, what I'm saying is that it's always going to be the same direction. It's not going to switch directions when I run sessions and things like that. So that's basically it. I'm sure I missed a few things here and there, but I always do. So I'll get those into the next update. But for now, we're going to leave it there. I hope you enjoyed it. Take care.